This is the second part of lesson 2.2 on trig for Foundations in Pre-Cal 10. We're on page 70, and we're going to look at the trigonomic ratios for the angles 0 and 90 degrees. So we're going to think about rotating angles. So a rotation angle of 0 degrees is formed when we have this line of length r here, and we're starting it here at r, and we're rotating it counterclockwise. Okay, so it's like the arrow shows, it's going up here. Okay, and in right triangle OAB, so OAB, where AB is perpendicular to OB, so that's our right angle triangle that we've had. We can say that sine of A is y over x. Now, I'm not going to use this y over x. I'm just going to keep this as opposite over hypotenuse. Sorry, it was y over r. But we're not going to do that. You don't need that in grade 10. You can worry about that in grade 11. So cos A is still the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tan is opposite over the hypotenuse. So this isn't actually changing anything, okay? Until we get down to the next bit. So if we were to make this angle, let's do 0 degrees. So if this angle A becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, this is the opposite, and this is the adjacent. So as this length here, the opposite length, gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, this R, or the adjacent side rather, because it's going to come around here like this, right? So the adjacent side is going to get closer and closer and closer to R. So, and our opposite, so hang on, this is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite is going to get closer and closer to 0, and the hypotenuse is going to stay R. So this is going to be 0. So the sine of 0 degrees equals 0. The cosine is the adjacent over the opposite, or sorry, adjacent over the hypotenuse. So this is going to be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And as this angle gets closer and closer to 0, the adjacent gets closer and closer to r until they're actually equal. So it's going to be r over r, which is 1. So cosine of 0 equals 1. Sine of 0 is 0. And the tangent is going to be the opposite over the adjacent. And the opposite is going to get closer and closer to 0, and the adjacent is going to get closer and closer to r, and that equals 0. So tan of 0 degrees equals 0. Okay? You should be able to figure those out by using that logic. All right? Now let's do it the other way. If A gets bigger and bigger and bigger, so picture this, A is getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's at 90 degrees, then the opposite is going to equal R, and the adjacent is going to be 0. So the sine of 90 is opposite over the hypotenuse. So the opposite has become R, and the hypotenuse is R, so that equals 1. So sine of 90 equals 1. And the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the adjacent is going to become 0. It's going to be 0 over r, which is 0. So cosine of 90 is 0. And the tangent is the opposite over adjacent, and the opposite is going to be r, and the adjacent gets to be 0. So that is actually undefined. So what is tangent of 90? It is undefined because you can't divide by 0. You are just not allowed to. There is no answer to that question. It is undefined. All right, just one more page. I know these videos are really long. Okay, you are going to take your calculator and you are going to fill this in. So pause it, do that, and then you can check it. All right, when you've done those calculations and they're right, you can see that as angle X increases from 0 degrees to 90 degrees, sine increases from 0 to 1. Okay? All right, we are going to do some calculations on this. So we're going to draw a triangle LMN in which angle L is 90 degrees and angle N is X degrees. Now you can draw this any way you want, but the normal way to draw this would be like this, with our right angle here and our angle of interest is over here. So this is angle N, or point N, and L is at the 90 degrees. That makes this the M. Okay, and then this right here is X degrees. Now, you need to remember that the sum of the angles in a triangle, any triangle, is 180 degrees. So the sum of the angles in any triangle is 180 degrees. That is always true. All right, so let's do an expression for angle M in terms of X degrees. Okay, so that means that angle M equals what? So angle M is going to be the total of the triangle, which is 180, minus X degrees minus 90 degrees, because that's how big angle L is. So angle M is going to be 180 minus 90 is 90, so it's going to be 90 minus X degrees. So there's our answer. Angle M equals 90 minus X. And then explain why does sine of X equal the cosine of 90 minus X. So let's take a look at that. What does sine of X equal? Okay, well, sine of X degrees, sine is the opposite over adjacent. So that means it's going to be side LM over side LN. Sorry, over hypotenuse. Oh, I'm sorry. It's undo. Okay. It's LM over MN. Sorry, I was doing the alphabet in my head. It's LM over MN. Okay. And what is the cosine of 90 minus X degrees? Well, that's going to be the same as cosine of M, right? Of angle M, because that's what we figured out here. Angle M is 90 minus X. So the cosine of M is going to be, now this is labeled in relative to M, so this is the hypotenuse, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent for angle relative to angle M. So the cosine of M is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so that is going to be LM over MN. And since this and this, so they both equal LM over MN, so they must be equal. And by they, I mean sine of X degrees and cosine of 90 minus X degrees. That's what the they must be. Okay. So let's use that. So if I know that the sine, I know that sine of 20 has to equal the cosine of 70 degrees. And the sine of, sorry, I didn't need the cos there. It's the sine of 70 degrees. And sine of 8 equals the cos of 82. Oh, time to stop. Sorry. 82 degrees. Okay, because 8 plus 82 equals 90 and 20 plus 70 equals 90. Okay, that is that. Go do the practice, mark the practice, correct the practice. Okay, bye.